Okay, so Brian says, I just got something on Google Plus saying tonight's thing is canceled with us. And that's what Michelle said earlier.
Okay, link is going out now. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. One of you gentlemen, please take it away.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, tonight's Tweet and Talk. This is Full Circle PD. This is 360 professional development. We have an engaging conversation tonight planned for how specific examples that we hope to provide and discuss enable our students to use social media to enhance or improve the learning in our classrooms, in our schools, and we will hear from several individuals as to how this can and does improve our learning. I am Rick Rowe. I am a high school math teacher in Arlington, Massachusetts.
And I am Tammy Neal, a high school and middle school computer apps and game design teacher from Branford, Florida.
And I'm Eric Turner, a teacher in Middle Tennessee.
And tonight we are talking about social media and the whole child. More specifically tonight we're talking about some specifics. Let's see, where did our question go? Where did the question go? I missed it. I lost it. Well, gentlemen, will one of you please share our question?
Yeah, the question is, provide some specific examples of how you use social media to enhance or improve the learning environment or the classroom culture within the school. So, Rick, what do you got? I mean, what do you do in the classroom that enhances it, and how, I guess what the question really comes down to is, what specifically do you do? What specific elements of social media do you use? And what's the payoff on that? What have you actually seen with regards to improvement and just the whole student improvement?
Let me give you a brief snippet, and then I'll expand on it if need be. We solely use Twitter for social media, and we have Twitter scrolling on our blog in our classroom, and we have a hashtag that we can insert, and students and I insert in each and every tweet that we put out about our learning, so that students can, in a specific course, carry on a conversation with others in the class, others in the course that might have another teacher, or others in the school that are interested in what's going on in the learning environment, purely on Twitter and using the hashtag of our course name. That's how students can track the thread or the conversation that's going on. And I would say it has drastically improved collaboration, and I would say it has unified the spirit in the classroom, where we're communicating within the class and outside the class. And I see incredible growth in myself and our students because of this. And I've only been doing this for the second school year. This is only the second school year we've been using Twitter this way. Tammy, Eric?
When you first started.
Yeah, he started about 2 years ago. About to wrap up the second year.
About to wrap up the second year using this on social media. Only on Twitter, though.
Okay. I started 4 years ago using Facebook with my students. I created a Facebook classroom-only account, put out links to, oh my gosh, all kinds of stuff. The homework, I put out links to videos that we'd done in class, because I had a Mimeo tablet, and so everything that I did for the kids I could record and then share with them. Did that with you, put it out on YouTube, shared links on Facebook, connected with parents. I mean, it was amazing to watch that connection with the parents grow. The parents all of a sudden knew, they knew when I was online. They knew that the kids knew that they could jump in for help. I have this year started taking it more towards Twitter, just because of the change in my curriculum this year. And so we just had Digital Learning Day, what was it, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, 2 weeks ago. For Digital Learning Day, I taught my students how to make a Google form, and we sent that form out live through Twitter. And Twitter was once through the Facebook page, but we got all of our responses through Twitter. We asked for people to tell us where they were, and the kids are really excited. We get 1 or 2 a day now. It's not big, but that's okay. We're not promoting it right now. But we got like almost all the continents. I'm still hoping for Antarctica, but we'll see. But
well, they do have a science. They do have a science.
Yes, and I did tweet to the science group that was down there. We'll see. We'll see. But they were very excited and very tickled about how responsive educators were, because that's really what they connected to. They connected to my PLN.
Right.
And you guys, everybody, the whole 360 crowd, all of my Flood Chat people, all my Rural Ed Chat people, it just, in 3 days we got close to 100 responses, and the kids were just like, because they didn't realize other people knew where we were. So, it was a very positive response.
And Tammy, they saw what your network is there for.
Yeah, we definitely, that was the whole point for me for Digital Learning Day, because I have such a wide variety of grade levels in any one classroom. It was important that I wanted the students to start to see the value of a personal learning network and a professional learning network. I wanted them to see the two different aspects of my network. And so we talked about why I followed some people and why I didn't follow others, and how to tell who was worthy of a follow and who wasn't. And, I mean, they really had some really deep thoughts about their digital footprint. And I was very impressed with that, because that means they listened.
Yes.
Beginning of the year. But watching the students realize that they can curate information for themselves.
That's huge.
That is huge. And teaching them how to use the Google environment to keep track of that is a big step for some of my kids.
Well, I can imagine a technology class, you're really going to have some serious uses for social media.
Yes.
That are going to affect the whole child.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have students whose parents have saved money to provide them laptops and things at home that they would not have considered necessary in the past. And
But why now, Tammy? Why now?
Because the kids are seeing the purpose behind it. The kids are coming home going, I want to do more of that.
How do you help them do more? Do you provide I guess, cheat sheets or help sheets, tips, those kind of things that they can take home and use. Because the thing is about social media that you and I, the four of us know that social media is not something they're just using at school. This is something that they're using all the time, everywhere they go, whether or not they realize it. You know, whether it's Foursquare, Instagram, or Tumblr, whatever it is, they're using social media. And so the way that we're using it at school is not necessarily the way they're using it at home.
Right.
I mean, it obviously translates over, but when they're coming to you and saying, I want to do more of X, Y, Z, what are you providing so that they take it home so they're going further with it than you're going in the classroom on their own? What do you do specifically?
Well, part of it is that I teach Microsoft Office. I don't teach the content in their presentations. They choose their own content for me. It is more important for my standards are, do you know how to make this slide transition this way? Or do you know how to make the animation, the words jump across the page? Or can you insert sound? Those are the things I'm responsible for making sure they know how to do. What I also do now is provide them the opportunity to show those skills with information they're interested in. That whole child side. What do you want to learn? And so now I have students who, I have one young man who did a whole bunch of research on speakers for his truck. And so I taught him how to use the social media because there are truck competitions in dealing with all of that. Didn't know there were, but we've discovered in his research that there's lots of money to be made in these competitions because putting your speakers and all that stuff together is very expensive. So they get sponsors by these amazing build-outs and all of that. And so we talked about all the math and all of that stuff involved in it. But he went further on his own based on what he started in my classroom. He actually is building it out now.
Rick, when you first started, you said you've been doing this for about 2 years in the classroom?
I have. Maybe a little bit more than that, but yes.
What problems, I mean, because as a math teacher, and you know how much I just love and adore math.
There's the Mr. Sarcasm.
What problems did you first encounter? Because, I mean, math doesn't, in all honesty, and neither does history, so I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn there, but math doesn't necessarily lend itself to the uses of social media, at least as one would think it would.
They
one
haven't been in
doesn't
our
necessarily
classroom.
say, huh?
They
What?
haven't been in our classroom.
See, and that's kind of what I'm going at. But what I really want to go to is to the beginning of it. And so one doesn't necessarily think of math equals social media right off the bat. Okay, that's not the first thought that comes to mind. So what obstacles or challenges did you face when you first started? What were the overcome, not only necessarily with the students, but with the school and with the environment, the culture? Because again, we're not talking about stuff that's been around for a long time. We're talking about just a couple of years. And how did you overcome them specifically to bring people on board, students primarily?
Okay, Eric, let me answer it this way, and then I'll bring it back on track if I don't answer it the exact way that you were asking. Students using social media in our class to enhance the learning happens when they're struggling with a concept on an assignment or on something we did, and they send a message on Twitter saying, can someone clarify number 17? Can somebody clarify what we meant by this vocabulary? I'm lost with such and such. And then they include the hashtag of our class. Well, anyone in our learning environment that sees that can jump on it and answer it. It doesn't have to be me, even though they may have tagged me on it. So they will put out a specific concern, question, something they're unsure about, and anybody in class, me included, can respond to that. So the thing that I see happening is the learning and the communication around it continues even once our class is over for the day. And I love the fact that whether we're together in class or not, we can still be there to support each other. So that they're on the soccer field waiting for a scrimmage to begin, and 3 of them will send me a tweet that says, we're all stuck on such and such, we're at the 3rd line, and we just don't know what to do. I see it, I create a really quick video that might take me 5 minutes with the backdrop being that question that they asked about, and I write on a whiteboard, if you know what I mean, on my iPad, and I speak, so they hear my voice, they see me writing, and they say, oh, that's the part I missed. So they get a very specific mini 1-minute video or less answering their specific question, and anybody else in the class who has a question on it can see that video and play it and play it and play it until it makes sense.
Where do you post the video, Rick? Is it on YouTube?
No, I tweet it to them.
Okay.
Where is it stored, though, Rick?
It is a link that is attached to the tweet.
We understand that. Where is the video physically housed?
Okay, it's housed in a video slide made with bContext, and it is a link that, where is it housed? It's hanging off the tweet. It's attached to the tweet. Tammy, I don't know how else to say where is it housed.
Is it in a Google Drive? Is it part of that 30 seconds that Twitter now lets you use? Where can you go back and find it?
Because that's a fabulous example of how to use this social media. I mean, I could see posting it on YouTube, but that's obviously, you know, a different route. You're taking something different.
It's stored on my iPad, and Timmy, I can't say. I don't know. It's hanging off. It's attached. It's a link on my tweet.
Can you provide an example later, maybe, Rick?
Sure.
Okay, that'll work, and maybe we can post that later to the website and to a tweet within 360
but
days.
I have an iPad app. It's a free iPad app. It's called bContext, and you can pull up a blank sheet of paper, a piece of graph paper, a PDF file.
Okay, so it's stored with their service as well.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Or you can pull up a Google Drive document and then write on and speak to that, and then when you send it out free of charge on Twitter, anyone who gets it can just click on play, and they hear my voice, they see me writing, and that brings the clarification to their question.
That right there is gold, Rick. What you've just explained, helping your students, that's the kind of thing that anybody who watches this video, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that specific example of how they can use social media to enhance their students' learning. Have you seen an increase? I mean, when you first started, I can imagine that students were like, yeah, ha, 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 this is real funny, this is stupid, I'm not using it. But have you seen in those 2 years the number of students increase using a bar graph, if you want to, or even one of those XY graphs? I don't know what you math people do, but have you seen an increase in those in the number of students that use social media to contact you or contact other students?
Eric, I would say the biggest thing I've seen is struggling students or students with questions. They do not let them go unanswered. They send me a tweet with a picture of something and they said, I'm stuck on this still.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I get that, I really try to respond as quickly as I can. And I send them exactly the answer to their question. And then I always say, helpful? Because if it doesn't help, I need to try another. And then before long, well, I do have one other question on this other thing, meaning, well, you answered that one, so I'm going to try. So I see more questions are not left unanswered, but they actually are raising questions outside of class.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing the next day? Are you seeing the benefit? Huh?
They're getting an immediate response. If you're sitting there doing your homework and you're stuck on something, and you can find someone in class or your teacher to immediately get you that answer, you're going to tap into that more often.
Okay. Are you saying the next day? Are you saying the next day? Are you saying more of a positive impact? And I guess a true growth. Nah, that's not really. Are you seeing?
Eric, I see them getting their questions answered when they have them, not waiting till the next day to get it answered. So they're actually finishing their work.
You can go ahead and the next day and just go on with what you need to go on rather than having to go back.
That's right.
And reteach. Okay. This kind of goes to both of you, Tammy and Rick. And I think actually, Tammy, you mentioned it, but parents.
Mm-hmm.
Are you both of you seeing more interaction from parents on social media than perhaps sometimes even from kids?
When I taught math, it was more kid and then it became a lot more parent.
It became more apparent or more parents?
More parents.
Oh, okay.
But to be honest with you, the more I did it, the less the questions became about the grade, and more the questions became more about the material.
The learning.
The learning. I actually did a Google Hangout study session last year, which was really kind of cool. I had one student show up. His mama sat beside him, and the three of us answered questions, but the kids the next day said, you know, I didn't want to join the Hangout, but I got a lot from it. All of my evidence is anecdotal because it's very hard to measure which students got something and which students didn't. I can't tell you who watched the YouTube videos. I know which ones have told me they've watched them. I know how many views I've gotten. But to know whether it was student in seat A or student in seat B, I can't tell you that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you both a question, and I want you to think. I'm sorry, Tammy, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. What I do know is that not only did it make me more accessible to my students, it made my students more accessible to me.
Did you notice a classroom here's a good question for both of you. With the use of social media and assisting students after school like that in classroom management and in behavior within the classroom? Rick?
Well, I will say that because of the culture of learning that I have learned to develop from Cold Chat, I would say that the relationships built and strengthened in class and on social media, specifically with Twitter, keeps the relationship building, keeps the communication open, enables students to, anytime they have a question, put it out there, ask, and get feedback from someone. I believe it tremendously impacts the learning environment in a positive way.
Yes.
For us, that's what I see.
Do you agree, Tammy?
Tammy, let me just add one thing, because I don't want to lose this thought, and you mentioned it earlier. I totally believe that the way we model the use of social media to enhance the learning drastically affects and influences how the students will use it.
Yes, I agree.
So if we demonstrate what a really good use of social media is and keep the channels of communication open, keep the learning flowing, they will follow suit, and they are.
Do you see that happening, or are you just believing it's happening?
Oh, I absolutely see that happening, and I try to make sure that every piece of social media contribution that I put out there is positive, informative, educational, relationship building, supportive, anything that is edifying, helping, contributing to the learning and valuing that whole child. Tammy, I'll bet you see the same, if not very similar.
Yeah, I get to see, because the students connect with me with their accounts, I get to see because they forget I'm there, which I think is a good thing. Them interacting with each other. I get to see who had a birthday party that weekend. I get to see whose cousin had a baby. I get to see that whole thing. So it's a very definite window into the whole child.
Okay, here's perhaps the last question. But in 140 characters or less, and I'm not saying that to say, a tweet or anything, but in 140 characters or less, what is the one thing, or the most important thing you could say to a new teacher who has not used social media to try to influence them to use or try social media in the classroom? What, if you could convince them in one way, what would it be? What would you say? And I'm going to let you stew on that for a minute or so, but I also want to get a comment from either one of you with regards to what other social media you use. You've mentioned Twitter, but do you use Facebook? Do you use Tumblr? Do you use Instagram? Do you use YouTube? Those things. So answer that question, but be thinking about the one thing you could say as well. Go.
Eric, I'll just jump in and say I don't use anything other than Twitter to communicate with my students for social media. It's exclusively Twitter.
Okay. Would you say that that's probably the safest thing to do? Because, I mean, we haven't talked about safety, but obviously safety is an issue. But would you say that's the safest thing to do, or would you say that using Facebook in certain instances, like with a group or a page for a classroom or something, would that be a safe thing to do as well?
I'm going to leave that to Tammy because I don't have a Facebook account, and I choose not to create one with my students or for my students. So, but Tammy can better speak to that, I'm sure.
We do have one question that came through the Twitter chat about age limits on social media. I don't do social media with students that are below the acceptable age limits. I just don't. I will connect with their parents if they're younger than that, but I will not connect with a student that's not below, I believe it's 13.
Right.
You know, if I connect with a parent and the parent hands it off to a kid, that's the parent's responsibility. That's not mine. But I don't connect to students who are below that 13 age limit for lots of reasons, including legal. But
there are some other, though, that you can use for students below that age, right?
they're not so much as social media as they are classroom accounts.
Okay.
That are within a walled garden. But I do use Facebook. I use Facebook. I use Twitter. I use Instagram. If the kids are on the medium and it's a secure medium, and it doesn't drive me crazy, to be honest with you, which is not a far trip. Okay, I'll go ahead and say it before you guys do. I will try to use it. I have an Instagram account that I originally started for me personally that I have started using to connect with technology and history. And so I use it to provide students some enrichment that I don't get an opportunity to do in the classroom. So the kids that want to know what happened on this day in tech history can tune into my Instagram account.
Nice.
So,
that is nice.
Yeah, and because of the way Instagram is, some of you see that on my Facebook page and my Twitter page. So Instagram helps me reach all three mediums at once. But you know, there is definitely a difference. I use Facebook also to connect with school clubs. You know, I have a Facebook page for the club account, the club activities that I organize, because it's for the secondary level. That's a very easy way to get messages to a whole group. So you know. Yes, and I noticed that our director is telling us that we are 1 minute over.
Well, let's before we finish out, let's go and answer that question, Rick and Tammy. What is the one thing that you can say to a teacher who doesn't use social media to get on board the social media train and use it?
Well, I guess I'll keep it brief, and I will say model, model, model. Get on social media and be an encouragement, be an inspiration, make it classroom related, share the learning, continue the learning on social media, and let your students follow suit. So show them what good communication looks like on social media and let them follow you. Do you know what I mean by follow? Let them...
Right.
Let them mimic you. Let them reiterate that kind of flow of learning so that it continues. And I would say to a new teacher, you know, try it. Try it.
I'm going to answer the question that our lovely Twitter queen tonight, Michelle, has shared with us. Brian has posed the question, so what role does social media have in the classroom for younger kids? I think that number one, social media in the classroom allows the teacher to connect with the parent, and you could do that during your school day, so that if there is something really special going on, parents can share that live. That's really a great tool for sharing that live. I also think that when younger kids start to see teachers
Tammy, you just froze.
Maybe it's an intentional freeze, Eric.
You know, I'm going to pick up on what she said because, and I don't know exactly what Tammy's going to say, but let me just say that I believe that when students see the teachers using social media in a positive role like that, and seeing them connect with their parents online like that, so that the parents know what the students are doing, what their own children are doing at school, there's immediate feedback. There's an internal, an internalized self-esteem issue there, I think. So that's a positive thing. Of course, privacy is an issue when you're talking about young children like that. It's an issue with all children, no matter the age. I could see certainly situations being set up where there are private Facebook groups that can be posted and that parents can join, or I believe that Corey Graham has a private Twitter feed for her classroom, and so parents can follow that feed just like they could in any elementary classroom. And so there are ways to share graphically or visually what's going on in the classroom so that teachers or that parents at home can see it. And I would imagine that would just be awesome, because I know my wife, she enjoys getting pictures of the kids, and being able to see pictures of the kids in the classroom smiling or doing whatever they're doing would just be a tremendous builder of relationships within the home and within the teacher and the parent as well.
Eric, let me add one thing, and I know we're over time now, but there are a couple of education-related chats that I'm part of, and we often talk about what's best for the students. Well, I ask my students if they are interested, this is the time of the chat, and this is the topic, and we have students joining us voluntarily, offering the students' perspective to the questions. And I think it is so important that when we're talking about learning in a chat, that the student voice is heard. And I'm always grateful when our students say, I'm going to jump in the chat tonight because I know the topic is, and I want my voice to be heard.
Right.
I think that's invaluable. And again, they're Twitter chats, but they're discussions about learning, what's working, what's not. And when the students say, hey, I have a comment here, what works for me is, I think it's invaluable when the student's voice is heard.
I would agree with that. I think that enabling the student to feel like they're being a part of the learning process is tremendous and encourages them to continue learning about whatever it is the theme for the subject is. Well, I guess Tammy has
technical difficulties
beyond her control. The things we could say right now, Rick, and she couldn't say anything.
But instead, Captain, you're going to wrap up tonight's session, right?
I guess this is it. Next week, we're going to start talking about the negative, I don't want to say consequences, I guess the way social media can affect students in a negative way. And so that might touch on cyberbullying or self-marketing, and the way that social media can be used to a student's disadvantage. Not that we would seek to do that, but simply how that can be done and the problems it can cause for the whole student and the problems it can cause within the classroom. So we'll be addressing weeks and then perhaps 4 weeks from tonight as well. Right, Rick?
That's correct.
So anyway, it was a great time. And I don't know how we're going to turn this off. Tammy just joined the video call again, so maybe she can turn this off live and we can go ahead and close this session out.
And I'm sure within seconds we will see Tammy live again, and we are wrapping up. Once again, this is our Tweet and Talk with Full Circle 360 PD, and we will return in 2 weeks from tonight to continue our...
Somebody asked a question. Why do schools avoid learning? That's a really good question. Why do schools avoid using social media for learning? And that's, David, can we answer that question? We're going to answer that question in 2 weeks, if you don't mind.
We can answer it in 2 weeks in the Tweet and Talk, but we can also get back to him and, this evening.
Yeah. But I will say that I think a lot of it has to do with, just very quickly, I think a lot of it has to do with simply legal issues and the fear of being sued or being fired. And I think that kind of explains that quite a bit. But we'll definitely look in on that in 2 weeks, and we'll follow up on that. So, Thanks for the question, though. Tammy, are you there?
Well, she is, but she's not live. But knowing Tammy, she's a keystroke away from helping us to bring tonight's Tweet and Talk to a close.
Well, I guess if
And
Tammy
she's
is
not
joining us.
And she's not reaching us on Voxer. She's not reaching us in the Twitter in the chat window. That's what you call, Eric, awkward moment when she's the pilot. And
I guess, Rick, we're just going to have to hang up, and that'll end the chat.
okay.
And then we can get back on a GHO off live.
Okay.
Rick, it's nice talking to you.
Okay, take care, and we'll see you here in 2 weeks live.
See you then. Bye.